5 reasons why dark chosen ones are most often misunderstood, but they accept it. There is a rare kind of individual who walks this earth with a presence that unsettles, a wisdom that confounds, and an energy that cannot be categorized. These individuals are often known as the dark chosen ones, not because they are evil, but because they embody the hidden, the unknown, the parts of existence that others fear to confront. They are the ones who have walked through the fire of transformation, who have embraced the shadows within themselves rather than running from them, and because of this, they are deeply misunderstood. Society does not know what to do with them. People sense something different about them but cannot quite explain it. They carry an aura of mystery, of depth, of something ancient and untamed. And while this misunderstanding could be a source of frustration, they do not resist it. They accept it. They know that their path was never meant to be understood by the masses. The truth is that most people fear what they cannot categorize. We live in a world that thrives on labels, on definitions, on clear-cut identities that fit neatly into preconceived boxes. But the dark chosen ones do not fit into those boxes. They are paradoxes, both light and shadow, both creator and destroyer, both healer and warrior. They have seen both the highest and the lowest aspects of human nature, and they do not shy away from either. This makes them unpredictable, and unpredictability makes people uncomfortable. When someone cannot be easily read, when their energy does not conform to social norms, society tends to project its own fears onto them. They are seen as outsiders, rebels, even threats, not because they have done anything wrong, but because their very existence challenges the illusion of normalcy.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
But the misunderstanding runs deeper than just external perception. It is not just that others do not understand them, it is that they often do not fully understand themselves until much later in life. The journey of a dark chosen one is filled with moments of intense solitude, where they question everything about themselves. They feel different, but they do not always know why. They experience emotions and insights at a depth that others cannot relate to. They see through illusions that others are still trapped in, and for a long time, they may try to suppress this part of themselves, to conform, to blend in. But the more they try to do this, the more they suffer. Because they were never meant to be like everyone else. They were meant to evolve beyond the limitations that define ordinary existence. One of the biggest reasons dark chosen ones are misunderstood is that they do not seek validation. Most people live their lives constantly looking for approval, for reassurance, for a sense of belonging within a group. But the dark chosen ones walk alone. They do not need external validation because they have already validated themselves. They have looked into the abyss of their own soul and made peace with what they found there. They have faced their fears, their doubts, their insecurities, and they have emerged stronger. This kind of self-sufficiency is rare, and it is often mistaken for arrogance, for coldness, for detachment. But it is none of those things. It is simply the result of someone who has learned that true power comes from within, not from the opinions of others. And yet, despite their independence, dark chosen ones are not emotionless. If anything, they feel too much. They experience emotions at an intensity that most people cannot even grasp. But they do not express these emotions in the ways that society expects. They do not perform their pain for others to see. They do not seek sympathy or attention. They process things internally, in silence. in solitude, and this makes people believe they do not feel at all. But they do. They feel everything. They just do not let their emotions control them. They master them. And this mastery is another reason they are misunderstood, because in a world where emotional impulsiveness is the norm, someone who has complete control over themselves seems almost inhuman. There is also the matter of their presence. Dark chosen ones do not seek to impose themselves on others, but their presence alone can shift the energy of a room. They carry something ancient, something timeless, something that others can sense but cannot define. And because people do not understand this energy, they react to it in different ways. Some are drawn to it, inexplicably fascinated by the depth they sense beneath the surface. Others are intimidated by it, feeling an unspoken challenge in the mere existence of someone who refuses to conform. And then there are those who fear it, who react with hostility because they sense that this person sees through them, sees their masks, sees the truth they are trying to hide. But the most powerful realization that dark chosen ones come to is this: being misunderstood is not a curse. It is a sign of authenticity. It is confirmation that they are not following the scripted path that society has laid out for them. They have chosen a different road, the road of self-discovery, of inner mastery, of breaking free from illusions. And while this road is often lonely, it is also the road of freedom. They do not need to be understood because they understand themselves. They do not seek acceptance because they have already accepted themselves. And in this acceptance, they find peace. So I ask you, have you ever felt like no one truly understands you? Have you ever felt like your thoughts, your emotions, your very existence operates on a different frequency than those around you? If so, perhaps you are one of them. Perhaps you are walking the same path, even if you do not fully realize it yet. And if that is the case, know this: you do not need to be understood to be powerful. You do not need validation to be whole. The world may never fully grasp who you are, but that does not diminish your significance. If anything, it proves it. The shadow walkers. Why dark chosen ones move differently and are feared for it. There is something unsettling about those who have walked through the fire and emerged unburned. Something unnerving about those who carry both light and shadow in perfect balance. The dark chosen ones do not walk the path of the ordinary. They move differently, think differently, exist on a frequency that most people cannot comprehend, and because of this, they are not just misunderstood, they are feared. Not because they are dangerous, but because their presence alone disrupts everything false, everything shallow, everything built on illusion. They are the ones who see beyond the surface, who hear what is not spoken, who feel the energy beneath the words. They cannot be deceived, they cannot be manipulated, and this makes them a threat to those who thrive in deception. Most people navigate life seeking comfort, seeking familiarity, seeking a sense of belonging within the systems that were created to keep them contained. But dark chosen ones were never meant to fit into those systems. They see the cracks in the foundation, the hidden motives behind polite smiles, the way society conditions people to accept limitation as reality. And because they refuse to play along, they are labeled as outsiders, as rebels, as people who just don't quite fit in. What most fail to realize is that this is intentional. The dark chosen ones do not seek to belong where they are not meant to be. They do not chase validation from a world that operates on falsehoods. They are not interested in illusions. They are here for truth. And truth is often uncomfortable. This is why their presence alone can shake people to their core, not because they try to intimidate, but because their very existence is a reminder of everything others are avoiding. They force people to confront their own shadows, their own fears, their own suppressed truths. And most are not ready for that. Most would rather live in distraction, in denial, in carefully constructed identities that allow them to avoid the deeper question. But when a dark chosen one enters their space, that illusion begins to crack. Because they see the things that others try to hide, the insecurities buried beneath arrogance, the pain hidden behind forced smiles, the fear disguised as confidence. And nothing is more unsettling than being truly seen. This is why dark chosen ones are often met with resistance, even hostility for no apparent reason. People feel exposed in their presence. They sense something powerful, something ancient, something that does not conform to the usual social games. And for those who rely on masks to navigate the world, this is terrifying. They do not know how to categorize this energy, so they default to fear, to defensiveness, to projection. They label them as too intense, too different, too much, not realizing that what they are truly feeling is their own discomfort with themselves. But the dark chosen ones do not take this personally. They understand that fear is the natural reaction to the unknown. They know that their energy will attract those who are ready and repel those who are not. They do not waste time explaining themselves to those who have already chosen not to understand. They do not shrink themselves to make others more comfortable. They do not dilute their truth to fit into spaces that cannot hold them. They accept that they will be misunderstood, even feared, and they embrace it. Because they did not come here to be liked, they came here to be, and this is where their true power lies, in their ability to walk alone without losing themselves. Most people need external validation to feel real, to feel worthy, to feel like they exist. But dark chosen ones do not need this. They have built themselves from the inside out. They have faced their own darkness, embraced their own solitude, and found strength in their own depth. They are not afraid of being alone because they have already made peace with themselves. And this level of self-sufficiency is rare. It is misunderstood. It is feared. Because a person who does not seek approval, who does not need reassurance, who does not crave acceptance, is a person who cannot be controlled. So I ask you, have you ever felt like your presence alone makes people react in ways you do not understand? Have you noticed how some are drawn to you while others seem repelled without reason? Have you ever felt like you see things that others pretend not to see? If so, you may be one of them. And if that is the case, know this: your path is not about fitting in, it is about rising beyond. You are not here to be understood, you are here to awaken. And those who fear you today may one day thank you for showing them what they were too afraid to see. The silent power, why dark chosen ones do not explain themselves, and why it drives people mad. There is an undeniable power in silence, a kind of presence that does not need words, does not seek validation, does not ask for understanding. Dark chosen ones have mastered this power. They do not waste time explaining themselves, justifying their thoughts, or proving their worth. They move with an energy that speaks louder than words, an energy that makes people feel something even when nothing is said. And this, more than anything else, is what drives people mad. Because in a world where everyone is desperate to be heard, desperate to be understood, desperate to be acknowledged, the dark chosen ones remain unmoved. They do not seek to be known, they simply are. This refusal to explain themselves creates an aura of mystery, of depth, of something ungraspable. and people fear what they cannot grasp. They want to dissect it, to categorize it, to define it in terms they can understand. But when someone refuses to be defined, refuses to fit into the mental frameworks that others rely on, it creates discomfort. It forces people to confront the reality that not everything needs to be explained, that not everything operates on the level of logic, that some things simply exist beyond normal comprehension, and most people cannot handle that. You see, society teaches us that communication is the foundation of understanding, that if we just explain ourselves properly, if we find the right words, the right tone, the right expression, then people will get it. But dark chosen ones know that this is an illusion, because most people do not listen to understand, they listen to respond. They are not looking for truth, they are looking for confirmation of their own beliefs. And the moment you try to explain yourself to someone who has already decided not to understand, you have already lost. You have given away your power, you have engaged in a battle that was never meant to be fought. This is why dark chosen ones do not argue, do not justify, do not defend themselves against misunderstanding. They let people think what they want. They let assumptions exist. They do not correct false narratives because they know that truth does not require validation. They have nothing to prove. They know that those who are meant to understand will understand, and those who are not never will. No matter how many words are spoken, and this is what makes them so powerful. Because people are used to reactions, they are used to being able to provoke a response, to elicit an emotional reaction, to pull others into their drama, their expectations, their need for engagement. But when they are met with silence, with indifference, with an unshakable presence that does not bend to their demands, they are left with nothing but themselves. And that is terrifying, because now they must face their own thoughts, their own insecurities, their own unanswered questions. This is why dark chosen ones are often accused of being cold, distant, or detached. Not because they do not feel, but because they do not perform their feelings in the way others expect. They process things internally. They do not seek sympathy, do not seek validation, do not seek external reassurance. They handle their emotions in solitude, in silence, in deep contemplation. And this confuses people because we live in a world where emotional expression is often mistaken for emotional depth. But real depth does not seek an audience. It does not beg to be seen. It simply exists, whether others recognize it or not. And yet, despite their silence, despite their refusal to explain themselves, dark chosen ones are often the most observant people in any room. They notice everything. The shifts in energy, the subtle changes in tone, the hidden meanings behind words. They see through the lies people tell themselves, the contradictions in their actions, the fears they try to mask. And because they do not react, because they do not expose what they know, people assume they are unaware. But they are not. They are simply choosing not to engage. So I ask you, have you ever felt like you see things others do not? Have you ever found yourself choosing silence over unnecessary explanations, knowing that the truth needs no defense? Have you ever watched as people misread you, misunderstood you, and yet you felt no need to correct them? If so, you may already understand the power of the unspoken. And if that is the case, know this: your silence is not weakness. It is strength. Your refusal to explain yourself is not arrogance. It is wisdom. You do not need to be understood to be powerful. You do not need to be heard to be felt. Some of the most powerful energies in existence move in silence, and so do you. The ones who walk alone, why dark chosen ones accept isolation as their greatest teacher. There comes a point in the journey of a dark chosen one where they stop resisting the solitude, where they stop searching for a place to belong, a group that understands, a person who truly sees them. Instead, they embrace the isolation not as a punishment, but as a path to mastery. They realize that the loneliness they once feared is not a curse. It is a calling, a necessary stripping away of distractions, illusions, and external noise, so they can hear the only voice that truly matters, their own. Most people spend their lives running from themselves. They fill their days with meaningless conversations, surround themselves with people who do not truly know them, seek validation in relationships that do nothing but keep them comfortable. They are terrified of solitude because solitude forces them to confront what they have been avoiding, their own mind, their own wounds, their own truth. But dark chosen ones do not have the luxury of avoidance. They have been forced into the depths of themselves, whether by life's harsh lessons, by betrayal, by loss, or by an inner knowing that would never let them settle for the surface level of existence. And in those depths, they have found something most people never will: themselves. This is why they are no longer afraid of being alone. They have already walked through the fire of solitude and emerged stronger. They have had the conversations most people avoid, the ones with their own demons, their own fears, their own deepest desires. They have sat in the silence long enough to hear what their soul has been trying to tell them all along. And because of this, they no longer seek external validation. They do not need a crowd to feel important. They do not need constant connection to feel real. They can stand alone in their truth, in their power, in their knowing, without wavering. But this level of independence is unsettling to others. People are confused by someone who does not crave attention, who does not seek approval, who does not need to be surrounded by others to feel whole. They assume there must be something wrong with them. They try to label them as antisocial, as distant, as emotionally unavailable. But what they fail to realize is that dark chosen ones are not avoiding connection. They are simply selective about where they place their energy. They do not fear relationships, but they refuse to engage in shallow ones. They do not reject companionship, but they will not sacrifice their peace for it. They would rather be alone in truth than surrounded by people who do not truly see them. And because of this, they are often perceived as mysterious, as hard to reach, as impossible to fully know. People sense the depth within them but cannot quite grasp it. They feel drawn to their energy but do not understand why. And for some, this is frustrating. They want access to the dark chosen one's mind, their soul, their power. But such access is not given freely. It must be earned. It must be proven worthy. Because dark chosen ones know the cost of allowing the wrong people into their space, they have been drained before, they have been betrayed before, they have given their energy to those who did not deserve it, and they have learned from it. Now they guard their solitude like a sacred temple, allowing only those who can meet them at their depth to enter. So, I ask you, have you ever felt like you were meant to walk alone? Not because you do not want connection, but because you will not settle for anything less than something real? Have you ever felt like solitude was not something to escape, but something to master? If so, you are not lost, you are not broken. You are simply walking the path of those who are meant to lead, to awaken, to transform. and that path is not meant for the many, it is meant for the few. The ones who have embraced the silence and in doing so have found their true voice. The ones who have made peace with the isolation and in doing so have discovered their greatest strength. The ones who do not fear solitude because they are their own home. Because in the end, the dark chosen ones do not just survive alone, they thrive